Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'll be showing you how to edit images and photos in Canva for absolutely free. This is going to be a full Canva photo editing masterclass, and I'll teach you the ins and outs of photo editing in Canva. So let's brace on. The first thing is that you need an image. I have this image here. You can see dimensions are 1919 by 1241. But I want to use standard image sizes. So I'm going to come to Canva. I'm going to click on Create Design. I'm going to use 1920 by 1280. I'll click on Create New Design. So the first thing I want to do is to upload that photo. I'll click on Upload File and I'll upload the photo from here. Then I'm going to click to add this photo to my timeline. I want to make it to fill this entire area. So just by stretching it. So the first thing we want to do is that I want to click on the image and you'll see something here which says edit. I'll click on that and it brings me here. You see already we can have several pre-built filters. If I click on see all, whenever I click on any of them, you see it's going to change the look of the picture. So if I use fresco, you see it's more brownish, and you can change the intensity here. You can reduce it to 0. You can increase it to the highest. You see, you can use warm presets like this, which shows gives a summer vibe. You can also use sangri, which gives it a reddish vibe. And then you can also use tundra. These are cool features. These are cool templates. I'll click on astro and I can reduce or increase the intensity. And we also have vivid filters. I'll click on elder and you see it changes there. Then we also have soft filters. You have the aura hazel. Let's try the hazel. It makes it more whitish. Then you have vintage filters. I'll click on retro. It gives it an 80s look. Then you have mono, which gives it black and white. It gives it a black and white feel. And I can reduce the intensity. I can make it 100% black and white. So this is this. I can make it 100% black and white. Alternatively, if I come back to edit and go back to filters, I'll scroll right down and I want to come to color pop. If I click on this, you see it inverts the colors, and this X Pro, you see it gives it a greenish look, and you can see amethyst. So these are just default templates you can use. I can reduce the amethyst. If I click on this outrun color pop, I can make it to be the highest intensity. I can also reduce that. And now I'll come back and I want to use my own filters. So if I come back, you see we have this filter here. I'll just remove this totally. Let me just delete this picture and add it again afresh. Remember, you can always undo whatever you've done by clicking on this button here. So if I now come back to edit and you see where it says adjust, I'll click on it and make sure you are adjusting or editing the entire image. If not, you can select a foreground, just the foreground, and you can select the background. That's if you have a picture and a foreground image, or you have a picture and a background image. Take for example, if I had another background image here like this, I could add it here to be the background. I'll stretch it. I'll bring this one on top, layer, bring forward, and then I'm going to drag this one. So I could edit the background or the foreground, but I'm just going to remove this. I want to continue with this. I will go back to edit. I'll go back to adjust. Now I can increase the temperature of this. If I increase the temperature, you see it makes it browner. It makes it browner, especially the background. I'll leave that at 0. I could tint this. Now, what if I reduce the temperature? You see, the background image begins to change, and even the temperature on the color of these particular people, it also changes. I want to leave this to be 0 for now. If I decide to tint this, let me reduce the tinting. You see how it shows? It makes it greenish. And if I increase the tinting, you can see that it makes it more reddish. So I can also change the brightness. I could change the brightness. And then for this, I could also reduce the brightness. So when you change the brightness, it makes it more flashy, like the sun is reflecting on it. Now, what if I wanted to use another image? I could change this image to get some more effects. Now I'm going to use this image to show certain things. If I click on tint again, you can see even the color on their pictures, on their faces here, it changes. That's the tone of their skin changes. I'm going to bring it back to 0. If I click to increase the brightness, you can see how bright their pictures look. I couldn't get that effect on this other image, so it appears this image has been edited before, so I choose to use a raw image. And if I click and increase, you can see it's like the sun is reflecting really high at a high intensity. I'll bring it back. Now, contrast. This is one of the most important functionalities you use when you're editing photos. If I reduce the contrast, you can see it makes it look like it's early morning. And then if I increase the contrast, you see it makes the picture, it gives the dark areas a darker complexion. Now look at the hair. Look at the texture of this lady's hair and the complexion. The more I increase the contrast, the darker it becomes. Now, ideally, for most pictures, you want to reduce the contrast before increasing the brightness. Now, if I reduce the contrast to -40, I will see -40. And then if I increase the brightness, you see, it doesn't really affect the picture negatively. So the more the contrast, the less the brightness. If I go ahead and reduce the contrast again, I could go ahead and make this picture brighter, and you see it still gives me a good complexion, a good tone for the picture. Now I want to make the contrast around, let's say, -20. And then I want to reduce the brightness to, let's say, 30, or I will make it 40. You see, it looks really good now. But what if I brought this back to 0 and this to 0 so that we can test the other functionalities? So for highlights, this doesn't do too much in terms of changing how the picture looks. But if I reduce it, you see it makes the picture overall a bit darker. For shadows, we don't have any shadows here, so you're not really going to see it much. But if I increase the shadows, you see that it makes the picture brighter again. If I click on white, you see the whiter areas are going to be more pronounced. The light colored areas are going to be more pronounced, like the heart. Look at this back. It makes them a lot whiter and even difficult to spot out. If I reduce the white, you see it makes them instead more visible and easier to pick out. Now let me increase the whites, and you see they are almost being faded, almost being camouflaged into the background. For the blacks, it's going to do the same, but for the black areas, you see it makes the darker areas blacker. It tends to gravitate them towards black. This is one feature you really don't want to mess up with, because it could spoil your picture. For vibrance, it's going to make the colors to be brighter. So the more I increase, you see the brown on her hat, you can see it's now brighter. The red on this lady's dress is brighter. If I reduce it, you see this pink here, it's becoming fainter and fainter, even the red on her dress and even the color on her hat. So if I bring this back, I increase the vibrance. And saturation here is going to make the picture to be less pixelated. If you have a picture that is pixelated, saturation is going to be your best friend. But if you use too much saturation, it's going to spoil your picture. I will increase the saturation. You see, it gives it a more reddish feel. And then sharpness will add some more layers to your saturation. And if you use saturation and sharpness, you can make pixelated pictures to be of better quality. So I'm going to increase this. You see, if you use sharpness too much, it makes the picture look very, very funny. If you reduce it, it makes the picture look dull and pixelated. So you want to make sure you actually use this optimally. Now, if you're going to optimize and upscale this picture, then you want to increase the sharpness and the saturation too. Saturation is going to add color. Sharpness is going to add depth to the picture. And then clarity is going to do something very similar to what vibrance does. I always just leave this the same. But as for vignette, I'll advise you to leave that the way it is. So this, in a nutshell, is how you edit pictures in Canva. So if I come here and I reduce the temperature of this one, and I reduce the tint, you see it tends to gravitate this towards, an 80s retro kind of image. I'm just going to leave this. And if you increase the temperature too, it makes it a yellow kind of picture, which is not exactly what you want. I'll just leave this the way they are. Use this only if you need to change the tone of the color. So for the brightness, you can just increase this a little bit, especially if you're using it on social media. For highlights, I'll reduce this. And then for shadows, this is not too necessary for our case. If you increase the blacks, the whites, and you increase the blacks too, you see you're going to have a very funny looking picture. You really can't see the faces of these people. But if we bring this to 0, and this should also be 0, and this should also be 0, I'll make this 0, and then I leave these other ones the way they are. You can see this is what the picture looks like. I will show you the original picture, and I'll show you this one. I'll just click here and bring back this picture. So this is the original picture, and this is what we have. You can see the difference is really, really clear. This is the original picture, and this is what we have. So this is how to edit photos in Canva in a nutshell. If you got any value out of this video, please make sure to subscribe to my channel and like this video, and also post a comment if you have any questions and I'll answer.